Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. This is Coach Rose AJ coming to holla at y'all today. We are almost to the middle of February, believe it or not. So by the time this episode airs, it will be almost the 1st of March. So guys, get this, we have a special interview. This is one of my virtual buddies that I've met in person several times, actually, who lives probably about 40 miles away. She lives across the bridge towards Bremerton, Gig Harbor in that area. But I'm going to introduce you to Taz. So let me give you a little bit about her. So I initially met Taz last summer when I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to get my Zumba instructor license. I'm going to take the class. And I had never, ever taken a class. I shopped around for a couple of classes at the local Y, and I was like, oh my word, Taz is right up my alley because I could understand her in the Zumba Gold class, and she was very encouraging. And I think I attended 4 of your classes, Taz, about that. And then I went and got my Zumba instructor training certification, and then I let it go because I just wanted the experience, right? So that's how I initially met her. And then she also invited me to volunteer at Race for a Soldier, that she's a volunteer coordinator or headed the volunteers up for that. So that was a good experience as well. So Taz is an LMHC associate, an EFT master practitioner, a heroic coach, fitness instructor. Zumba is one of the things that she's certified in, among many things else that she will tell us about because I already forgot, y'all. And then she's a writer and a veteran. All right, Taz, take it away. Tell us who you are, what you do, boo, and life your way. So I'm going to just go ahead and mute myself. It's all about you.
First off, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to connect. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to, just share community and be able to help each other in terms of those that know us, so that we might be able to serve others. Because I love community and connecting. I love the ripple effects when we're able to come together like that. I mean, when Rose first came in to the Zumba class, she was very commanding. She's tall, I'm short. You may not see that here, but just this very beautiful presence, and spirit, and energy when she came into the room. So it was just like, oh, who is this amazing person? I want to go. I just felt called to go say hi, not just because I was the instructor in the class, but really wanting to connect. And so, after that, just I thought it was great that she was challenging herself to step out outside of the comfort zone and, get the certification in Zumba Gold. And then that she did it, so proving and showing that, hey, when we put our mind to something that we want to do, be, or create, and then give ourselves permission to have steps, missteps, mistakes, and that it's okay. Just like dancing, it's the stories we tell ourselves. And that's really a metaphor for a lot of things in life, right? And so the fact that, we were able to connect, and then volunteering and helping out with Race for a Soldier was really poignant to be able to see, and the message that we're not alone, that we really can help others and also help ourselves, that there's support out there. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. In terms of what to share. So, background sounds like a lot of lofty things, right? She's got blah, 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 blah. Honestly, for me, my story is one where lifetime of post-traumatic stress, depression, and anxiety, to get real. And I was military for almost 25 years. My dad was also military, so military, grew up in a military family. And because of a trauma, unfortunately, when I was a child, and then also continuing kind of moral injury, trauma with not processing loss of life that I had witnessed in the military, that just kind of compounded along with, behind the scenes, well, and I should say in front of the scenes, always kind of presented as this very, competent, capable woman, and I was, yet I didn't really believe it, so inside, that self-esteem and so on was just wreaking havoc, along with the depression and anxiety. Things just kind of fueled that into a perfect storm for me. And it wasn't until, I had gone along the way, master's in Middle East studies, master in counseling, all the sort of things. And then it wasn't until I retired and got divorced, that I kind of really hit that rock bottom point of, well, now what? What am I going to do in my life? was asked for a divorce. And while on one hand, after almost 20 years of marriage, it was, a shock. At the same time, it was also a relief because we'd had issues for a long time. And it was a healthy thing for us to do, to separate. And then for me, that's really where an opportunity where my journey began on the coaching and the rest of it, that you had mentioned in the front. And for me, it was hitting that point where fueled of, depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicide ideation, not feeling I was good enough. And at the lowest point, when I'm having those suicide ideational thoughts, I remembered a promise I'd made to my parents that I would never put them through that because in the family, there had been others who had committed suicide. And making that choice, and then it was literally well, so now what? Do I want to spend the rest of my life feeling this way? And it was like a frack, no, no. So what am I going to do? And then it was kind of getting back to trying to learn to be in alignment with who I am. So that mask and who I felt was the one and the same. And there something that was kind of galvanizing or helped that process was here's the fun researcher nerd side of the house of me that I love, my inner Hermione from Harry Potter, is there was this Cleveland Clinic study that talked about we had like 60,000 thoughts a day. And of those, about 90 to 95% are repetitive in our subconscious. And of that, about 80 to 85% are negative. So we were literally walking around in fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And you're going, what the hey? I'm basically led my life based on what my inner critic had been, dishing out, which I named my inner critic Waldorf and Statler from the Muppets, the old guys in the balcony sitting there heckling. And that really is kind of what started that journey of, okay, so what am I going to do? And from there, it was really about empowering myself to learn and grow through mindset, through gratitude, through meditation, through health and wellness, through forgiveness, not only of people in my past, but also myself for the things I didn't do, or that I, felt I should be doing, and letting go a lot of that shitting all over ourselves. And then from there, it was all right, well, how do I start making habits? How do I start to learn? And, with the coaching and with then the experience of the freedom I learned through emotional freedom techniques, which is tapping along acupuncture points, those were all healing parts of my journey, along with the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation, which is a local organization here in the Pacific Northwest in Gig Harbor, Washington, that helps veterans and first responders go from surviving to thriving, going from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. And that's why being so passionate about supporting Race for a Soldier, as a volunteer and a volunteer coordinator, ever since I moved here, because they were also part of my healing journey through a program called Warrior Path, which we learn 31 wellness techniques and have that opportunity then to, through basically good habits, of starting to implement these and what is serving us in our life, and letting go of the past and really realizing it's not who we are, it's what happened to us. And once we can start to separate that, it's really empowering to see that how we can take something that happens in our life and be able to use it as fuel for others. And so on top of that, I had been trained as a counselor and was working towards licensure 15 years ago, but got deployed for a year and had to let that go, and then just never came back to it and didn't feel like it was right. Until I had learned as I became a practitioner, a master practitioner and a coach and seeing clients, I had the opportunity to learn eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is for therapists to be able to support gold star standard when it comes to working with trauma, working with depression, working with anxiety. And I just loved it as much as I loved tapping. And I was like, all right, I felt called to come back, to my roots in that sense. And, decided this 2023, was that all right? I decided to come back to be a licensed mental health counselor associate, even though I was 53. Those are the messages I was telling myself, right? And I was like, who cares? Who cares if I'm an associate? Who cares if I'm pre-licensed? Who cares if Washington State isn't going to accept X hours of past experience? Okay, I'm still serving. Because ultimately, for me, it's about not being alone. It's realizing that we're not alone, that we can thrive, that we can have support in our lives, that we can take a traumatic experience and shift it, and to see what's on the other side. It is just amazing to be in that place and wanting that for everybody else, and so that's why I'm so passionate about what I do and the different umbrellas and the way I serve. I get some folks, okay, you might say it's the ADD in me, but yeah, a little bit, because I like having a variety of things to do. And at the same time, it's all under the umbrella of service. So it doesn't matter whether I'm writing or whether I'm coaching or doing the therapy side of the house or teaching. It's all fuel for helping others know that they're not alone, and that there can be a different way, and that they can really live their soulful life with more passion and purpose and play. And for me, that's what it's really about.
Go ahead. Now, I where the person started out needing your help and you ended up being helped as a result of helping that person. Because that's what I say with the service industry.
Yeah.
Even though we are called or we want to help others, we're driven to do this for the most part. But
Yeah.
we really end up helping ourselves, whether it's through the education, whether it's being of service,
Yeah.
or whatever. So, of course, you're not going to tell us the specifics, but just a general overview of maybe a particular client that you've served and ended up helping yourself in the process.
Um, Big question. I'm just kind of letting my brain float to. I think, to be honest with you, it's a good current example, without going into specifics and not, violating confidentiality at all. When, no, I take it back. I'm gonna rewind a little bit more. One of the things I do on the fitness side of the house is I teach rock steady boxing, which is for people with Parkinson's disease, because the boxing has been shown to reduce or delay the progression of the disease. And so we have boxers in their 50s to their 80s, who are out there 3 hours every week fighting back against Parkinson's, and it is humbling and amazing and energizing, and such a sense of gratitude to be able to be a coach for them every week. When I first went to teach, or learn to teach, rock steady boxing method, because it was started in headquarters was in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so I'd gone out there to take the training class, and we got introduced to the classes out there, and you have different levels of progression of the disease, from folks who are very mobile, you barely see an issue, to folks who are in a wheelchair or who have very cognitive decline or fall risks or challenges moving muscles. And I can remember feeling uncomfortable when I was first introduced to that second group. And I remember a coach who had said, sometimes this isn't for you, for a particular person. Sometimes it feels too uncomfortable and they need to stay with this level instead of this level. And I remember feeling that uncomfortableness because I remember it tapped into kind of a judgment of myself and or expectation coming from the military, and this idea that you always had to be, and the fitness side, that you always had to do things that, if you weren't healthy, you were looked at differently. You were looked at in a negative light. And taking that sense of what health and fitness was and never having really challenged it, now I'm presented with it. And it was because of the boxers there and then this coach who really made me face that judgment and that prejudice and that unvoiced expectation that I had, and kind of walk through it. And by doing that, I'm like, no, I don't want to be that way. I want to be able to help anybody and be comfortable with it and okay with it. And so it was a matter of, working through that, learning it, applying it, being a resource and being a source of support to now I've been doing the program for 6 years, so that's one way. And another thing I'll say is, creating community when you get to know people's stories, of it's not just a face, it's not just a name. And it doesn't matter if it's on the therapy side or if it's on the fitness side of the house. When we create community and we connect and we really get to know somebody's story, we then want to be able to help them connect with others, right? But doing that, sometimes doing that is actually helps us because it gets us out of our comfort zone. It gets us thinking in ways outside of, oh, what's the next post I need to do? What's the next thing I need to be doing? It's more of, no, how can I serve and who can I help? And when we can bring it back to that and let go of the ego or let go of the accolades or let go of the kudos and really be present and feel it, really honor the person and go, what can I do to serve? There's such a sense of profound gratitude of really tapping into our highest, best self. That is like, instant chocolate. Dare I say instant coffee? Because you gave that up. No? Oh, you went back. Okay, never mind.
I was 68 days without coffee, and I
Hey,
was just like,
let's still
I
win.
my intention was never to return to coffee, Taz, to be quite honest. But I was like, you know what? I'm trying to choke down this iced tea and really enjoy it. And the reason I returned to it is because it had been a part of my ritual. It's something that I like for self-care
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
So I'm back on the black coffee, girlfriend.
Hey,
I'm
and it
back
is
on it.
moderation, right? That's what
Yeah,
sometimes life's all
yeah.
about.
Well, actually, I'm not a moderator. So that's why I'm on the particular path to wellness that I'm on with the carnivore diet and intermittent fasting. I
Yeah.
need that structure, but I don't do moderation well, right? Because it leads down other
But
alleys for
that
me.
structure is moderation. It's just structure.
I don't know if it's moderation. I'm just like, this is what's good for
He's
me.
worked for me. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, so let's go back to when you were in the military
yeah,
and you are now a veteran.
yeah.
Can you tell us about some of the good things from your military career, like the structure, the discipline, the routines, which I
Sure.
would assume is a good thing because I thrive on that, right? But it might not have been for you. But can you tell us about some good experiences
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that help build you to who you are today with
Yeah.
being in the military, and maybe one or two things that, you may have wished went a little differently in the military?
Sure. Um, Overall, the honesty, the idea of serving, whatever and whichever way that may be, obviously serving our country through the military has a certain connotation because it's the art of war, that you're dealing with. And, there's a lot of people who go in the military and that's not what you're thinking about. You're thinking about, my father served or a grandfather served, or you're thinking, hey, it's going to pay for school, or hey, I need to do something, with my life. I got to get out of this town. There's a lot of different reasons why people will go initially into the military. Um, for me, I went through ROTC in college, and a lot of it was familiarity. My dad was in the military, so I was like, well, this is what I know. Okay, sure. Um, and what I loved about the military was the camaraderie, and yes, the structure, the discipline, the routines, a lot of that helped me too. Um, it was the people I met along the way, of different assignments. And it was the variety of things I got to do, that was interesting. Um, I'd say, honestly, though, of the almost 25 years that I was served, the two jobs that stand out the most for me. One was actually an opportunity to give back as a professor at Kent State University through ROTC. And so it was really getting to teach ROTC cadets who were in that time of just focus on college, young adults, and what do I want to be in my life? What do I want to do? And having that opportunity to be there for them, help them learn accountability, help them learn what it's going to take for long-term goals, help them learn more about history, help them learn more about international relations and what's going on in the world, vice that little slice of where they're at, each day. And so that's something that I really enjoyed, and helping others make those decisions, educated decisions, not from a standpoint of here's the money or do this service, because we're best. It was like, no, what is it you want? What is it you're looking for? Maybe you should try this service. Maybe you should try this service. And it was always really about it. I always feel a big believer in informed decision making, because it's empowering. The more you're aware, the more we're able to make more informed decisions. And then we feel good about the decisions that we made. Or even if we made a mistake, now we can see, okay, what happened? So to me, that was always really important, being able to do an honest broker, of things. And that carried through. I got to be part of one of the jobs that I had was working as a congressional liaison for the Air Force, up at Capitol Hill. I got deployed for a year to the Middle East, and it was through a State Department and Department of State mission that was, at the time, because this was back 2011 timeframe, was working on the two-state solution. And so it was actually helping to train, under tacit approval of the Israelis and the Jordanians, training Palestinian for kind of the first responder side of the house. So some of the police, some of the ambulance services, EMTs, that kind of thing. And so it was a great program of building security and building connection between these, as we see today, current events, a lot of animosity, a long history of not being able to trust. And that was actually, building blocks on the ground, of being able to be part of that. And then being able to share that back on Capitol Hill when it came to funding of the program, and being able to actually address, here's how it went, here's what it was able to do, here's the impact that it had. And so that was something that I think for me, I never in a million years, would I have thought I would have been doing something like that, when I first went into the military. So, yeah.
Well, a lot of that went over my head, girlfriend. I'm gonna just tell you, I'm just be like,
Yeah, working on Capitol Hill, just that kind of thing, being able to
Yeah.
share the Air Force story. So,
Can you show our audience the baby that you have in your lap? And
that
ironically,
keeps
guys,
moving, that keeps shifting
yes,
around. This
just a
is so
beauty.
cute. Can you say hi? She's like, no, I'm being shy.
And ironically, your name is Dancing Dogs 2 on Instagram, and that's the beginning of your email address, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yes,
And the
beautiful baby.
dancing, love of dance, as you
Mhm,
know. And then
mhm.
the two is, I typically had always two dogs. Right now it's just one. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because we're both dog lovers, and I
yeah.
think without a dog in my life, I would probably be okay, especially since I have two Laniettas that keep me busy. But there's just something about having our preferred pet with us, right?
Yeah.
So my girl Pumpkin, she just turned 11. She's a little over 11. She was my midlife crisis baby. So she helped me balance things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So if you could go back and have a conversation or tell your younger self something that now that you're 53, did I hear you say?
Yeah. I'll be 53 next month. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now that you're 53, but if you could go back and talk to your, 16 or even 20, 25-year-old self, what piece of wisdom or advice would you give her with
Yeah.
knowing what you know now?
With knowing what I know now, I would say the biggest thing, given my life experiences, would be, that idea of thy own self, be true. Be true to yourself. Be in alignment, genuine alignment with who you are. Um, way too many years of people pleasing, way too many years of trying to deny myself, or fit in, instead of just honoring it and being who I am. And then from there, building a support system around that. And so I'd be telling myself to be true who you are. And then it would also that it's going to be okay.
Everything has a way of working out,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has a way of working out. No matter how much we stress, it's going to work out the way it was intended to work out, right? So, what is your favorite type of client to work with? And it looks like you have like five different hats on, or different modes of
Yeah.
opportunity to serve. So, what's your favorite type of client to serve?
Um, on the therapy coaching tapping side of the house, I specialize in getting in there and helping others through, work through, resolve post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression. So that tends to be, who majority of my clients are. Although that's not all my clients. There's times I've helped folks, in terms of career, in terms of self-esteem, in terms of just kind of navigating different key transitions in their life. And I've loved all of that. I would say the common denominator is that client who is willing to do the work. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, and there's going to be times where they come to the table and they step away and come to the table and step away. That's part of our learning and growing process, and it's okay. But it's someone who is willing to do the work and they've reached out for support, because that's that first step, and then from there, it takes care of itself.
I was going to say that that used to always be my favorite type of client, the person who is the most willing
Yeah.
to do anything, because, like you and me, at some point we had reached our rock bottom and we figured out how to get back up, right?
Yeah.
That used to be my favorite type of client, the client that was willing to do almost anything to kind of figure out their ultimate blueprint to life. And a lot of times I work with people that want weight loss, but I tell them, you might think you want weight loss, and it's true, right? For
Right.
better
Oh
health,
yeah.
better outcomes and stuff. But 90% of our conversation is about life. How are
Yeah.
you doing
Heck
life?
yeah.
Let's be
Yep.
preventative. Let's look for solutions,
Oh
and
yeah.
then the rest to kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
But now my favorite type of client is the one that's really resistive. That's really resistive. And that's kind of like a Debbie Downer, because I was there. I was
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah.
A
I love
Debbie Downer who's resistive to any suggestions, any guidance, resistive to even answering a text.
it.
And the reason, no, no, the reason I say that
Yeah. Yeah.
is because if they get one tool in their tool shed that they can remember that they are worthy,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
rest will unfold.
Yep.
So I find the resistive, the one that's like, no, 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 this can't happen for me. Okay, if you say so. But eventually, what are you going to do when it does happen for you?
Yep. And I agree with you. In that sense,
Mhm.
I find the resistance to be, come on, let's play, let's dance, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I find we all have resistance. It's just to what degree, right?
Mhm.
And the folks that are resistant, it's over time, and once they decide they're going to make that step, doesn't mean that I'm ignoring them. It doesn't mean that I'm not helping or serving. They're just not, they're just not ready yet. So it's serving them where they're at, and that
Right.
may just be, you know, hey, how are you doing today? Or that may be taking a little coaching life tip, pro tip, and putting it out there.
Yeah.
It may be writing a blog, it may be writing, an article. And because you
Mhm.
never know when that seed, that plant is going to germinate, and then they're ready to take that next step.
Right on.
Yeah. Uh,
And and so can I ask you before we close out, what are you working on in 2024 that's going to stand out for yourself that maybe you haven't necessarily done in the past, that's always been on your to-do list, and you finally said, okay, this is the year that I'm gonna do XYZ?
yeah. On the professional front, it was the decision to go back to being a therapist and, working those hours, because Washington State, it's 2,800 hours before you can test for licensure. So yeah, so for me, it was like, all right, I'm gonna, be an associate, and I'm gonna make those hours work. And so other things then getting to that point, because that means other things will fall off the plate, so I can do what I said I wanted to do, and loving, loving, loving what I'm doing. Um, the other thing is continuing community. and so in the different hats, us connecting through through the why, through, the coaching program, through the networking and other things like that. And then for me is, personally, I haven't traveled in a long time overseas, since way before COVID. And so for me, this was an opportunity to get a chance to do a little traveling. So I kind of put in the books and marked it, said, nothing's interfering with this, and so it's getting a chance to take 2 trips, later in the year, and be able to travel again. So, yeah.
Don't leave us hanging. Where are you planning on going, girl?
One is Canada. So Canada, celebrating my mom's 80th birthday, and taking her, doing a family trip there. So I'm excited for that. And then it's doing a hiking trip in the Lake District in the UK. So yeah.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, Taz, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this interview and giving me the opportunity to know you a little bit better and different perspectives. But would you like to close out with maybe a word of wisdom or, some inspiration for somebody that might be sitting on the sidelines of wherever they're at in their life?
Yeah. It is the biggest thing is it is never, ever, ever too late, as they say, to reset, readjust, refocus, restart. And then when you do, it's neutrally and curiously just asking yourself, what now? What's the number one important thing? And what's the smallest little step? Even if it's, I'm going to put my shoe by my bed, day one. And then the next day, I'll put the second shoe by my bed, day two. The smallest little silly thing that you can do because it's going to build up over time.
Right on, right on. Thank you again so much. Now, can you tell us real quick where we can reach you? And I'll put it in the show notes, of course, and then stay on after I close out.
Best way to reach me is either through the email, Dancing Dogs 2, on social media. It's on Facebook if you just look up Jennifer Vazquez, or if you look up Dancing Dogs 2 on Instagram, and it's also under Jennifer Vazquez under LinkedIn if you're on there. Yeah.
And do you have a website?
Oh, yeah. TazVazquez.com.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, folks, y'all heard it here first and foremost. Miss Taz telling us a little bit about her life journey, about what she's doing, what she has planned in the future for 2024, and how she currently serves her clients. So y'all need to hit her up. And with that being said, this is Coach Rose AJ, Carnivore Girl for Life, out. Deuces. Talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much.